around, feeling free, thinking about what's happened to me from July up till now. Don't know where.
It's not even December yet, and I cannot stop thinking about vegan gingerbread cookies. I, for whatever reason, have gotten it into my head that I just want to spend an afternoon making some cookies, not thinking about anything else that's going on, and kind of doing an activity that requires a bit of decorating and just that focus, that kind of zen focus that you get when you're doing something creative with your hands. And I think that making gingerbread cookies would be a really festive way just to kind of relax and do something that is just fun for fun's sake. So I've actually pulled up a recipe on Pinterest that looks really good. And the thing about Pinterest recipes is that you might find a cookie recipe that looks beautiful in the photos, but then if you make it, it can be hit or miss. So I'm actually going to test this one out. I will do a taste test at the end of the video and let you know what I think. But I think it's going to be a really fun process, and gingerbread is one of my favorite cookies. It makes the house smell so good. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. I did team up with Thrive Market to get some of these ingredients, and I'll do a little grocery haul later to give you some good ideas for things to buy. But for now, let's get started with this Pinterest recipe. So I found this recipe from lovingitvegan.com, and I will link it down below, but it starts with some softened vegan butter and brown sugar. In my experience, one of the best things that you can do when making cookies is not to rush this step. Basically, you want to cream the butter and sugar together until it is light and fluffy. So don't just mix until it all comes together, but actually use the back of a sturdy wooden spoon and incorporate that sugar into the butter until it gets really light and fluffy. This makes all the difference, especially with something like chocolate chip cookies. It totally changes the texture. So as you can see, it's nice and smooth. That sugar kind of is abrasive and it breaks up that butter and totally changes the texture. Then I'm gonna add a flax egg and some molasses, and already it's gonna start to smell like gingerbread because molasses to me equals gingerbread. Then we're adding some vanilla, and you're gonna mix this together until it is silky smooth, and oh, I could have done this all day. Mesmerizing. Then for the dry ingredients, I'm gonna sift together some flour, baking soda, and all the gingerbread spices. So we have cinnamon, ground ginger, a little allspice, clove, and salt. And salt is really important in a cookie recipe because it adds some flavor and helps to balance out the sweetness. And sifting it is a really good way to make sure that you have a really nice light texture, and it kind of does some of the mixing for you, which is great. She didn't say to incorporate the dry ingredients in batches. Sometimes it'll tell you to do half and then mix and then do the other half. She said just to put it all in there. So that is what I did. And then she said to basically take the dough and form a ball and then roll it out into 1/4 inch thick. And then you want to dip your cookie cutter into flour just to make sure that you don't have any sticking. And this is what it will look like. I did a little bit thicker than 1/4 inch. And then you bake for 10 minutes at 350 degrees. So the directions don't tell you to chill the dough before you roll it out, which is honestly one of the reasons I chose it, because nobody wants to wait if you don't have to. So I was really drawn to the idea that I could make this, roll it out, and then get it in the oven in a relatively short amount of time. But I did kind of get a little nervous when I took the dough out of the bowl and tried to roll it out because it was really crumbly and dry, and I just did not see it coming together. So what I did was exactly what she said. I kind of gathered it into a ball, and once I started not being as delicate and afraid of the dough, then it really did come together. So at first I just kind of gathered it into a ball and tried to roll it out, and the whole thing just crumbled. But once I kind of treated it more like Play-Doh than something super delicate, it came together really nicely. So while we wait for the cookies, I thought I would do a little grocery haul and also show you some of the ways that I use these ingredients that might not be immediately obvious. I'll show you. So I got a couple bottles of molasses, one because I knew I was going to be making gingerbread cookies, but also because I love making gingerbread oatmeal this time of year. And I basically just make my regular oatmeal, but then I add gingerbread spices like cinnamon and some ground ginger. I stir in a little bit of molasses, and it gives it that gingerbread flavor that is so good and so just wintry and holiday, and it kind of just makes my normal breakfast feel a little bit special. And if you didn't know, molasses is actually a pretty good source of iron for anybody, but especially if you're on a plant-based diet and looking for ways to sneak a little more iron into your diet. molasses. I also got a couple bags of flour. I know I'm going to be doing a lot of baking around this time of year, and the worst is when I'm all motivated to make something and then I don't have one ingredient like chocolate chips or flour. So if I'm gonna use it a lot, I tend to get a couple of bags, and that way I don't have to run to the store just for one item. So things like vanilla extract can be really pricey, and I also really love almond extract. And when I was looking at the website recently, I actually was thinking that the prices weren't that different than when I was at my regular grocery store until, let me show you. This is the size of the one I normally buy, and this is the one that they had on Thrive. So when I looked at the ounces, I realized that this was a really good deal. Got some spices. This one is actually new to me. Himalayan sea salt, garlic, onion, oregano, cinnamon, turmeric, and sage. And it's all organic, so that's really cool. I've never tried it, but I'm really excited. I'm thinking this on avocado toast or on my tofu pita pocket sandwiches that I love. This is gonna be so good. Some pumpkin to make more pumpkin muffins. Coffee, my one true love. The last thing I got is a simmer sauce, and I really load up on these whenever I'm grocery shopping because I find that it makes making dinner really, really quick and easy. So what I will do is I will basically get a sauce like this, which is the Moroccan tomato sauce, or I will do like a Thai curry simmer sauce. There's so many different options, but that way all I have to do is open a can of chickpeas. I'll grab some frozen cauliflower rice, maybe some frozen corn or peas, and I'll let that simmer in this sauce. And then I'll just serve that with some rice or potatoes if I have it. Sometimes I'll do pasta, but it's really quick and easy, and it's a good way to make sure that vegetables taste really good because they really absorb all of those flavors. And it's a great pantry meal because this is from the pantry, the chickpeas are from the pantry, and then the veggies can be fresh or frozen, but you don't even really have to have anything fresh on hand. So it makes it really budget friendly, really practical and easy. So I love loading up on stuff like this. All right, so that is it for the grocery haul. I hope that it gave you some good ideas. And if you want to check out Thrive Market, you can use the link in the description box below. Become a member either for a month or for a year, whatever you want to do. That link will be in the description box. And now let's get on to those cookies because I'm so excited. I started out by making the frosting that she had in the recipe, which is just 3 ingredients: powdered sugar, a little soy milk, and some vanilla extract. And as you can see, it gets really silky and glossy like this, and it's a really nice glaze consistency. I wanted to pipe decorations onto the cookies, so I transferred the mixture to a pastry bag, and an easy way to fill a pastry bag is to put it into a glass, and that way it kind of props it up so it stays open while you fill it. Then twist it nice and tight, and then you are good to decorate. I found that this frosting was a little bit too thin for the kind of decoration that I wanted to do. It would be great for flooding, it would be great to drizzle over a cake or something, but it made a big ol' mess when I tried to pipe it directly onto the cookie. However, not all is lost. If you ever make a mistake when you're decorating a cookie, just cover it in sprinkles and it will look great. I mean, come on, sprinkles hide all the flaws. I did decide to make it a little bit thicker just by adding some more powdered sugar until it was a much thicker consistency like this, and that way I would have a little bit more control. And I am definitely not an expert cookie decorator, but I really enjoy it. I'm not great at it, but I kind of like that about homemade cookies, and I wanted to include some of the imperfect cookies in the recipe video as well, because I don't want you to think that your cookies have to look like you got them from a bakery in order for them to be, you know, something that are worthy of making, sharing, gifting, photographing for Instagram. Be proud of your homemade cookies. I actually think that when they're a little bit imperfect and they look homemade, they're even more cozy because there's just something, I don't know, nice about that. I really liked the ones that had just a little bit of frosting, the ones that had writing or just kind of an outline. I felt like it was the perfect amount of sweetness because this recipe is actually not super sweet, which I like because the cookie itself has a lot of nice spices and flavor, but the frosting is very, very sweet. So it creates a nice balance when the cookie itself is not too sweet. If you find when you're decorating that you have some air bubbles in the frosting or that it's hard to spread out, you can easily just kind of remove those air bubbles with a toothpick. But you want to do this while the frosting is still soft. It will harden as it dries, which is great, but add your sprinkles and, you know, kind of move it around as you need to before it dries. That's a big key. Okay, so now I'm going to do a little taste test, and I got one with frosting and one without so that I could do a little comparison. Tastes like Christmas. This one I made quite a bit thicker, and it's definitely my preference. I like kind of a cakier gingerbread cookie, so I like when it's a little bit thicker and softer. It's said to bake for 10 to 12 minutes, and I just did 10. Right away you get the cinnamon and the ginger, allspice and cloves, and then that little bit of salt really helps to create kind of a butteriness, which is nice. I do think that it's a touch on the dry side, but that could just be because I needed quite a lot of flour into it when I was rolling it out. So she said you don't have to be too careful with it, but I would say because the overall texture is just slightly on the drier side, use as little flour as you can get away with. I did see a note that said that because different brands of vegan butter have different moisture to fat ratios, you may need to add some almond or soy milk to the dough to make it not so crumbly and dry. And I think if I had done that, it would have majorly improved the texture. So I highly recommend doing that if you start to notice that your dough is a little bit too dry and crumbly. The first time I make a recipe, I like to kind of just follow the recipe as is and make adjustments the next time. So I just followed it without adding the soy milk, but after trying them and realizing that they were a little dry, I think that the texture would have been a lot softer, a lot cakier, and just overall more enjoyable had I done that, because I guess the butter that I had was a little on the lower moisture side. So definitely eyeball it, see if you think it looks a little too dry, and if so, add a tiny bit of soy milk, just 1 spoonful at a time, or almond milk, whatever you want. But doing that will really help to improve the texture. But this was a really fun recipe to try. I'm so excited to try some more because as much as I like this one, I do feel like I would like a cookie that's a little bit more moist. I'm sorry, I know everybody hates that word, but it's just a teensy tiny bit crumbly for my taste, but it holds up really well. It doesn't spread out in the oven. It has great flavor. It's beautiful. My whole apartment smells like the holidays right now, which is one of my favorite parts about baking. Even though I was filming, so it's not quite as relaxing as if I was just doing it in my own kitchen, because you know I'm trying to make sure that the lighting is okay and I'm moving the tripod and the camera to get all the different angles and everything. Even with that element, I still found myself really relaxed and kind of immersed in what I was doing. Definitely lost track of time, and there's just something really special about cooking and baking in particular that is very captivating in that way, in a way that's very relaxing and soothing. So I definitely recommend doing something like this, kind of having a little baking project, because the result is a house that smells like Christmas and some cookies at the end of it. So that is it for this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it and that it inspired you to make some vegan gingerbread cookies. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, and comment below and let me know what your favorite Christmas or holiday cookie is, and I will see you guys in a video very soon. Bye!